Welcome to Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode 132. Hi, I'm Jill. Thanks for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are your co-hosts and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
I know you're wondering why we're called Becoming Ellie. Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who wrestled Thor and beat him. Chris and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie.
That's right. You can find out more about us at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. While you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter when you're on the website. And that way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new with the Becoming Ellie community.
Hey, Chris, this episode is a great conversation with Ginny MacColl. I've always loved watching American Ninja Warrior.
Ginny did her first pull-up at the age of 63 and then decided to become a Ninja Warrior.
If you're listening to this episode when it comes out, season 15 of American Ninja Warrior starts this week. Let's hear what Ginny has to say. Ginny MacColl is an actress, dancer, and competitive athlete in both ninja and swimming. She began her career in New York City as a dancer in the hit Broadway show Pippin in 1973, then transitioned into the commercial world and did over 100 national and regional commercials throughout the 70s and 80s.
After a 20-year hiatus to raise her family, Ginny rekindled her acting career recently in Southport, North Carolina in commercials and film and began strength training for American Ninja Warrior, where she completed season 9, 10, and most recently, season 15, which is airing this month in 2023.
At 63 years old, Ginny did her very first pull-up, inspired by her daughter, Jessie Graff, who has gone farther than any female on American Ninja Warrior. At 71 years old, Ginny continues to compete regionally in ninja competitions and local, state, and national swim meets.
You may have seen Ginny featured in the December 2019 issue of AARP. She also appeared as Evelyn, one of Diane Keaton's 8 cheerleaders in the movie Palms, Dorothy in USS Christmas on Hallmark's Movie and Mysteries Channel, Agnes Miller in The Stars Fell on Alabama, and Beverly in And Just Like That. Welcome, Ginny. We're so excited to talk to you. I think you're the role model for It's Never Too Late.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. That tells my whole life story right there.
Yes, and it's a good story. You have really quite the story. How did you become a ninja warrior and what prompted that?
Well, that was never planned. I have to tell you that. I mean, retirement had a whole different meaning to me when I moved to Southport, North Carolina, but it was close to Wilmington, which had a lot of the film industry happening, which is one of the reasons that my husband and I moved down here. And unfortunately, we lost the incentives in that same year I moved here, but it gave me time to rekindle the acting and taking the classes and getting pictures and resumes and an agent. So that was really my first goal when I came down here. But seeing my daughter, Jessie Graff, on American Ninja Warrior was just such an inspiration to me. Having grown up in the era that I did, women weren't encouraged to do any kind of strength training. So when I saw her going so strongly at American Ninja Warrior, I was just impressed with how great she looked and healthy she looked, and the muscles really looked quite feminine and beautiful to me. And so I talked with her and I was trying to find out how I could get stronger. And she had lots of ideas. And one of them, of course, was pull-ups. I didn't have any upper body strength. So that became almost an impossible feat. Although I tried very hard at it, I needed to get the back muscles, the chest, the arms, the biceps, the whole package. So I went to a personal trainer and I said, my goal, I tried to make it very attainable, was to get to 5 pull-ups. So it took me an entire year to get 1 pull-up. that's how hard it is, but it's such an accomplishment to get the pull-up that I had to continue on from there. A friend in Oak Island, which is close to where I live in Southport, had built many of the obstacles in his yard because there's nothing close by. So to get to a ninja gym was 2.5 hours for me. And that was just too long and too hard to drive it. So I went to his home and started working on obstacles. And I was just so excited to send a picture of my doing the steps, the original first obstacle on Ninja Warrior. I sent it to my daughter and I said, look, I can do the steps. Now, I did them very close together and little by little, I took baby steps. It didn't just happen in a day. And I sent it to her and I was so proud of it. And that's kind of where that whole ninja experience started. The fellow whose house I was at said, you're going to be able to do all of these obstacles one day. And I thought he was nuts because he had so many. He had the pegboard and the devil steps and all these different ones that perhaps you don't know what they are, but they're very difficult. But little by little, I was able to accomplish that by watching other people, by just going over and over. And I got to say, there's such a wonderful feeling of accomplishment when you get through an obstacle. You feel like you just conquered the world. And that kept me going. American Ninja Warriors was sort of encouraging us to do a mother-daughter segment on the show. And that also inspired me to move forward with it and submit a video, which is how you get on the show. I could do a lot of obstacles, but I still was not very strong. So I can't say that my first times on the show were not stellar. So I hope that will be different this year. We'll see. That's coming up in June. I don't know the exact date, but both Jessie and I will be on the same episode, which will be exciting.
I'm sure this is a great story for them. I mean, TV wise, it's pretty compelling to have mother-daughter ninja warriors.
It definitely is, yeah. And we have bonded a lot through this. I encourage people to work with their children when Jessie is an adult child, but even the younger children who are getting into it, to actually try to do these things together is a wonderful mother-daughter, father-son, any mix of that, just family-oriented. It's a great way to stay in shape and to bond with your children as well.
I know you're going to be in this summer's upcoming season 15, and I know you probably can't tell us a lot about that, but can you share some things about doing it again? Because competing on TV has to be a lot different than training.
There's a lot of fear and nerves. You really have to get a hold of that. Plus, you don't know what the obstacles are going to be when you go there. So, and you're not allowed to get on them either. So there's a lot of just worry and nerves about that kind of a thing, getting into it. I don't know how you control that. I know everybody has the same reaction to being extremely nervous and excited at the same time. And then when you walk out there, there's the screens with your family back home waving at you. And you get caught up in the moment and it's like 3, 2, 1, go. And there you have it. But I had Jessie coaching me beside me. That's that much I can tell you. So she was on the sideline right there where she could tell me, stop, breathe, look, and that's very helpful. It kept me focused.
Do you think your experience with commercials and your television shows helped with the nerves?
I think so. I don't know that you ever get rid of the nerves. They're there. You just have to handle it. You have to focus on what you're doing. They don't go away. You always get nervous. It's just you have to control it.
It has to be a little unnerving to be doing these things with cameras and microphones. When you're training at home, you don't have anyone walking around with a camera on you, probably.
Well, I think I do better when the camera's on. Even when I do videos, learning a different obstacle, I might not get through it. But when my friends put the camera on, it's like, I have to get this.
Okay.
You bring your A game.
Yeah, there's something about that camera that's like, this is it. Do it. Get it.
What kind of workouts or what kind of shape were you in when you decided to start? When you decided to do the pull-up, what had you already been doing?
Well, I was always active. Let me say that. I played with the kids. We'd set up little tracks for us to jump and broad jump and then the dance. So I was always disciplined from that to do some kind of exercise. So at that point, I had been in radio for 20 years and I had a little routine of 20 minutes that had to do with stretching and, no pull-ups, of course. I didn't do upper body, but I did do 23 push-ups.
Okay.
And I did crunches, and I did just a 20-minute routine because that's all you can do when you're working all day long. And I always did swim. So I was always in relatively good shape, just not upper body, not focused on that. When I came down here, I would say, when it came to balance for dance, that came a little bit easy for me. When it came to upper body, that was a struggle to get going and get that first pull up for sure. I gotta say, being the age that I was 63 when I started seeing the personal trainer. And I didn't know that I could get stronger. I just had no idea. In fact, my daughter, Jessie, was always saying that too. She thought you could maintain muscle, but she didn't know that you could build muscle. So it was all a learning experience. And I just was excited at the fact that I was getting stronger. It was a wonderful feeling. The health benefits that came from it after starting to lift weights, which I had never done in my life. I had never been in a gym and I had never done sports. When I went to get my bone density test, I was thinking, well, now I've been lifting weights. They say that helps. I had osteopenia, which is the step before osteoporosis. So I thought, well, see if it made a difference. And it did. I was able to reverse the osteopenia back to normal.
Oh, wow.
That's wonderful.
Wanted to out it to the world. And that's where the Instagram started coming in, because I wanted people to know that you can do this. Now, I mean, I'm sure that there are people that have different problems or obstacles that would not allow for that, but they really mean it when they say lift weight. And you can start out without lifting weights with just, doing the motion of it without weights to get your body warmed up, and then starting with very light weights. But I recommend going to a personal trainer because they watch you and make sure you're doing it correct. It's too easy to hurt yourself. And I think too many people can hurt themselves when they don't know what they're doing. Their knees go in or they're leaning back as they lift a weight.
Right. I think there's two things that a trainer helps with. One, it keeps you from over exerting yourself at the beginning, because some of us are like of the mindset, well, if a little bit is good, more is better. And the trainer helps you actually get to that point, but then also helps you when you start. Your trainer doesn't want you to overtrain at the beginning, but then also works on helping you get stronger
to the next step.
You don't just say, all right, I'm doing this and continue to do the exact same thing.
Or start to lift a heavier weight when you're not ready to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I would never know I was ready for the next weight or how to go about that.
When you got the trainer and you said, I want to do a pull-up, did the trainer say, okay? Your trainer basically was agreeable to that, didn't say, oh, that's not going to happen.
Right. No, he did not. Yeah, but it was a long time before I started trying to do pull-ups because you had to build the muscle. But after about 7 months, I really started to see definition and tone. And so that was encouraging. I think a lot of times what happens to people is they get started and they don't see the difference. And, we're in a society that we want it to happen right now. You really have to have that commitment and the persistence and the determination to keep at it. And, a lot of people stop going after 6 months. And like I said, I didn't really see the difference until 7 months. You have to make the commitment.
So you would have stopped right before it was about to happen, right?
Right. You want to be consistent. Well, first you have to make the commitment, not just say you're going to do it, but commit to it. And then you have to, continue, be consistent and make a habit of it. I'm at the point where if I don't do something, I feel bad. It's like, I got to do something. Even if it's just something small. I have to do something to feel good.
So you have been working with your daughter, Jessie Graff, who's a stunt artist and a star ninja warrior too. And do you work out together sometimes, or?
We did. We do. She lives in California. I live in North Carolina. So it's a far distance.
So it's virtual workouts.
Well, no, it's, a little bit
Okay.
For sure. But we just, she came out east to do this big ninja competition at UBW, which is in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And then we took an extra day to go to one of the gyms, and she gives me some good tips on how to do that. And we were there for 3 days at the competition. So a lot of it is just learning this proper stretches. A lot of people don't do the warm ups, or they don't do the stretching afterwards. And those are very important, certainly as you age. It's so easy, especially in ninja with the shoulder. There's a lot of shoulder impact. So you have to really know when to stop. You get very close to getting some obstacle, and you can feel that soreness coming in, and you don't want to stop because you want to get it. But you have to really be smart about it. And what I do is I go off and I do some balance. And then I go, okay, no, I better not do any more upper body. But yes, we get a chance to work out together a lot. Of course, we were at the show. I was there for 10 days in LA doing the show just this March. That was a great time for us to work together. And a lot of it surrounds ninja, of course.
I did not know there are actual ninja gyms around the country that you can go to.
It's a growing sport. It's huge. And again, I bring up Instagram because I have quite a following there around the world. And a lot of people are like, what is this? And it's so strong in the US, but it hasn't traveled as much. I mean, it's getting international and more attention, but there are many places where where do I find something like that? Which is fun to see people getting an interest in ninja, and also more ninja gyms opening up. Sometimes it's a part of a trampoline park. They have a small section. So right,
that makes sense.
Yeah. We have one in Wilmington called Defy Gravity. There are a couple of others that are mostly trampoline, but they have a little section of ninja.
So I always like watching the ninja show, and I will sit on my couch and say, wow, you have to have a lot of upper body strength to do that.
Yeah.
You actually said, wow, let's go get the upper body strength. That's fantastic.
That's the thing. I just wish from all this that people will see me at my age and go, if she can do it, I can do it. And I do get a lot of comments like that going, I've got to get up and do a pull-up.
Right.
I have to get off my couch and get going. And if I can get one person to see the benefit and to commit, I will be happy.
Okay. Well, let's take a moment and talk about doing that pull-up. It took you 1 year to do one pull-up, that's what you said, right? 1 year for the pull-up.
Yes, definitely.
And how did you do that? I mean, I know you said you got a trainer, but if one of our listeners just said, you know what, I want to go do a pull-up, what advice would you give her? And I mean, how do we develop that upper body strength?
Well, lifting weights, certainly. And I also recommend doing cardio too. So like for somebody who hasn't done things before, to start walking and get a buddy, because it's a lot more fun to have someone walk with you and start to get the heart rate up. But definitely strength training. You can do it with the resistance bands. You don't have to necessarily do weight, but you again want to develop the chest, pushing like push-ups. You want to, which I think is an easier get than a pull-up is.
Yes, certainly.
The guidance of a personal trainer with the lifting weights. But if you have a bar, I mean, they have them all over that you can put in. I have mine in a closet in between the door. You can start with like just the action of it and get a chair and put yourself on it, or you get bands. And little by little, try to just put a little bit of weight on your feet and do the actual motion of pulling up and down. So your muscles get used to that, the action of going up and down, and try to take one foot off and just get to one toe. But you might start just trying what we call a scapula pull down. So that would be just pulling down. Like I'll do it 10 times. I'll take my hands or arms in a 90 degree. It's kind of hard explaining it instead of showing you. But if your arms are at a 90 degree and you just pull down your shoulders so that you are getting the lats to work and the delts and everything in the back. So we call it the scapula pull down. I would do 10 of those and just get used to it. So if you're hanging from a bar, you can do that same action. And then little by little, try to pull up just to 90 degrees. And that part is difficult because a lot of people just try to do it with their shoulders, whereas you want to be able to use your back. There are devices in gyms where it takes weight off. There are bands that you can stand in and try to get that action. There are negative pull-ups where you start at the top and you slowly go down. I wouldn't recommend that until you get a little bit stronger. So there's many ways to start with it, but I usually say those pull downs with the scapula, the shoulder pulling down is a good way to get started.
And that's a good reminder and you did say you have to train your back and your chest. It's not just having strong arms. It's having strong back, strong chest.
A lot of people forget the lats, and that's an area that will protect your shoulders because now you're using your whole back.
So if you're going to the gym and you have a lat pull down machine, that would be a good thing to use.
As long as you're doing it correctly and you're not lifting too much weight. You have to do all this in baby steps. I do everything in baby steps. When I approach an obstacle, I'll jump to it first and just touch it to see if I can and get the sense of jumping again, because you want to come down on your toes first. There's a lot of impact to your back. Particularly want to take your time as to when you go to a heavier weight. I would never start with a pull-up. I went to him and saying, this is what I wanted to get to. That was a goal. I didn't start with pull-ups by any.
Excellent.
So what effect has developing muscle had on your health? You mentioned your bones are stronger, but what about blood work? Is that something that has been impacted by all of your working out?
I would say everything is.
Okay.
The heart is a muscle.
Sure.
It's terrible. Like 1 out of 3 deaths for women is caused by heart disease. So that's why I say that cardio is so important. 85% of people over 50 have significant blockage in their arteries. All of that, in fact, you don't even know. That's without symptoms. So there's the bone loss, 1 to 2% of bone loss per year. There's muscle loss. You lose 30% of your lean muscle by age 60 and 50% by age 70. So those are frightening to hear about. Your balance can go, the text neck, because we're so used to this, going forward. Your posture gets all by sitting too much, your hip flexors. So there's been a lot of study that even a 90-year-old can improve by doing the resistance bands and training. I think they said after 8 weeks of working with some of these people, their legs improved by 174%, their leg strength. And they abandoned the walkers and the canes and the wheelchairs. So, we have a lot of things that deteriorate. Arthritis, your fluid disappears, unfortunately, and then it's bone against bone. So you get those achy joints and you just don't want to do it. But, they say moving parts don't rust. So even though I have the knuckles that are like twice the size, I can't wear rings anymore, the action will help keep away the pain. I take like a rubber band from your broccoli and I put it around the tips of my fingers when I'm watching TV or, in some other activity. And I just go back and forth and try to keep the hands, or in the sand, if you're at the beach, moving those hands a lot. The benefits with the action and the lifting weights and the resistance bands and the cardio, all is going to make your quality of life much better. I just wish that we would see that before all the pain starts to settle in. Like in your 30s, when you think you can do anything, in 40s, that's when the muscles start to go away. But you need to keep that up. start it and keep it up. But I must say you can start at 63 or 70. A lot of times people just don't want to do that because they're more, set in their ways. Oh, I can't do that. But the word should be, I can't do that yet.
I love that image of the broccoli band because it's not just the muscles in your arms, but the muscles in your hands and your feet.
Your forearm.
Particularly when you have arthritis, it seems like it settles in the extremities first.
Well, all your joints.
And the fact that you're talking, and your back and, your chest, you're not just talking about your biceps when you're doing a pull-up or, when you're working Ninja Warrior, you're really using every muscle in your body. That's really.
Yes. There's something called the cliffhanger that we go side by side just from your fingertips. So,
wow.
I get calluses and everything from it, but I get it. I don't care about the calluses.
In the movies where they're hanging onto the cliff and,
yes.
You're watching these things and people are hanging there forever while someone's coming to rescue them. And that wouldn't happen in real life, but it's nice to know that you could hang on for quite a while.
Yes, it is. I don't like that image of being on the side of a building, but.
No, yeah. There's a big difference between deciding to be able to do a pull-up and actually doing it. And I think a lot of that has to do with mindset. Do you have any advice on how we silence the voice inside that says, I'm too old to do this?
Oh, yes. And that's an important thing. It's all mental. It's so much mental that we have to decide and get rid of, change our perspective on things, that you can do so much more than you think you can do. But so many people will say that, no, I can't do that now. But, well, what can you do? I mean, let's start small. Can you walk on a small balance beam? Can you hold a balance on your one foot for 20 seconds? I do balance on one foot when I brush my teeth. As the electric toothbrush goes 30 seconds on one side, then I switch to the other side so I get a good balance. I think you just have to set your mind. There's so many things out there that you can do. There's bicycling and pickleball is huge now. There's tennis and kayaking and running is huge now. I see more and more seniors doing that. I've been competing at the senior games or the senior Olympics, however you wish to call it. And I am impressed by the 80 and 90-year-olds who are swimming. It's a great sport for longevity. I saw a woman, her name is, I always say her name because I'm so amazed at her, Julia Hurricane Hawkins. She started running at age 100. She's still running now. Wow. I'm not sure her age, but it could be 103, 105.
I saw an article about her. That's an incredible story.
But it is an incredible story. And but I was impressed by 80 and 90-year-olds doing flip turns, they needed help to get up on the block to dive in, but they got there and they dove in. So you can't tell me that you can't do it. You just have to set your mind that you can and then find the steps in order how to do it. But the movement is so important for your health, for your benefits, for your longevity, for, your health and how your quality of life is as you age.
Well, I was looking at your Instagram account and I just kept looking at video after video. And there's a video of you in the competition climbing a rope and then grabbing the rings. And what struck me was the huge smile on your face. And so most of us are grimacing. I would say, if we can do it, if we're trying it, we're grimacing while doing hard things. How did you learn to smile when you're doing it? Or does that are you really enjoying yourself? Or is that?
It's the delight in catching the ring, but it's you should see my face before I do. It's like grimace. I don't know. I think there's something about it that makes you when you're doing it. There's something called a vertical limit that I was doing with my daughter this weekend. And I said, I don't think I can do that. And then I just don't. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Let me go over there and see if I can just do what I said with pull-ups, just do it on my tippy toes. And that's all you have is one little lip to hold on to. And I got a little bit of tips from people that were there, coaches that were there. And I was able, by the end of the time, to hold it for 9 seconds, which wasn't great. But my face was like this. It was like, well, you can't see, but it was all grimaced and like, I don't know what makes us think that if we put on a really mean face, it's going to help you get the obstacle. But then when I get it, that's when the smile comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not feeling relaxed for sure when you're gripping that hard. So it makes sense not to have a relaxed face.
You don't want to fall,
smile,
right?
Yeah. Right. Your smile is just infectious.
Your muscles are also, you're tensing probably every muscle in your body, and your face does have muscles. So it makes sense. You also do competitive swimming. When did you you said you were doing, but when did you take up swimming, and what advice on swimming can you give us?
Well, first of all, it's a wonderful sport. It's one of the best for the whole body. I always swam. I lived in my single mom days. I happened to be on a lake, and so I swam there. But the swimming I did was always recreational. I never had to, could do the butterfly or tried to. I never did a flip turn. I did a breaststroke with my head above water, which is
we always liked the breaststroke because you didn't have to get your head wet.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're swimming in a lake, it's nice to keep your head above just in case there's a log or something.
Yeah. Or you don't want to get your hair wet.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Whatever the case may be, I just did it recreationally. So they had a program at the community college down here, and I went, oh, it's a coach, but it was way too early. When you were retired, you don't want to get up and go to do something at 7:30 in the morning. But after 2 years of retirement, I decided I would try it and fell in love with it. And, the coach always said, he coaches like there are 15 of us. He said everything I did was old school, like you cupping your hands as you swim.
You're not supposed to cup your hands.
No.
Oh, right. They say now it's better to separate your fingers. Yeah.
It's relaxed. You don't want to tense
relaxed.
it up.
Okay.
And I learned the S, that you were supposed to swim in an S as you go down. That's old school.
They don't do that anymore?
No.
Okay.
No. So, and with the breaststroke, that's changed quite a bit and continues to change. You actually go underwater and then pull up. And I had to learn the flip turn and the butterfly. So now I can do all those. I mean, it took a long time, but again, it's with somebody giving me just little hints here and there of what to do and how to change it. Going upside down in a flip turn was not fun, but I was determined to do it. And that's what it takes, is just determination and keeping at it and just practicing it over and over and over again. Same thing with ninja or anything you do. You just have to keep doing it. And you learn from the falls. I think a lot of people get discouraged by that. As long as you know how to fall correctly, that you're going to come down on your toes and you're not going to hurt your wrists. You have more falls than you have successes, but you learn from that and it's okay. That's the part of the process.
Do you do any other cardio besides the swimming?
I do not like running, but I do it. After my workout with the personal trainer, I take his dog out for a run. And I don't even do a full mile, but I started out fast walking and then doing some running and then little by little doing more running. And then I can take a break while the dog sniffs everything. But that's where I get my running in, and it's really improved. I'm almost up to a mile. So.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I want to switch things up a little bit and ask about how you eat. Do you follow a particular way of eating, like paleo or plant-based, or do you eat a lot of protein?
It's a big, big question because yes, I started gaining weight with the muscles. And I had to eat more protein, but I found in many of the bars that you get, it's very hard to get that protein that you need. The bars had too much sugar. So I didn't want to replace one thing with another problem. I don't want the sugar. So, getting the right diet was hard to do. I'm basically on a Mediterranean diet is what I try to follow. I found at one point that my carotid was occluded, from 50 to 70%. They gave me a window of that. I was shocked, but I have heart disease in my family. So I followed a book. It was called Prescription for Life. And I stopped all dairy. I stopped as much as possible when it came to any kind of fat, saturated fats. And I cut out all red meat. And I did this for 2 years, and it was very difficult. I went around the house going, there's nothing to eat. Everything has that much
saturated fat. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you substitute? So I substituted avocado for butter. So I always put, the avocado, spread it on my toast. And I ate a lot of fish. I ate chicken and turkey. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was, just making it mostly vegetables and the proteins, and to get away with dairy. And I love ice cream. So that was a really tough one. But it's almost better having none than having a moderate amount. Because if I have ice cream in the house, I'm going to start having it every night.
Right.
So it was a major, major change. I went back to the vascular surgeon, and the next time that they had done the test, it was down to 40%. Now, I don't know whether that was the diet or it was the machine or the person who read the machine. I think it was probably a little bit of everything. Now I don't have dairy except for, I will have some cheese on a cheeseburger if that's all there is. I'm not going to, but I am very moderate about what I have, maybe meat just once a month, and I have a lot more fish. So, I've maintained it, but I'll have the ice cream that has no dairy in it. Again, I start to have it every night if I have it. So I'm going to just lay off of that for a while. It's very hard to be disciplined.
Right.
When people decide to up their protein, it's hard to give up the dairy too, because there's so many. If you're not going to eat protein bars and whatever, it's easier to eat cottage cheese or yogurt or whatever.
They do make yogurt without that's non-dairy,
and it has the protein in it.
Yes.
Okay. That's the hard part, I think.
It is hard to get the amount of protein you want. And the biggest problem I have is getting enough water.
Oh, okay.
That is the biggest problem. I find I have to drink all the time, constantly.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're traveling to some of these places for 2.5 hours, you don't want to drink, or you don't want to have coffee or something like that, because then you have to stop all the time and go to the bathroom. So that becomes a big problem of how to get that amount of water, because if you're sweating and you're working out, then you need excess, you need more. So that's a huge thing. I'm very envious of my daughter, who just really constantly has water, and that's so important.
What other kinds of lifestyle changes did you make to become this strong? Anything else that you had to adjust in your life? Diet,
water, protein.
You probably sleep well.
Oh, you're right. Sleep is I have the watch, the smartwatch that tells me, I don't know that it's correct, but I'm trying to get that 7 and 8 hours. That's so important. Unfortunately, I do a lot of movement at night. There, you're good. Yes, sleep is the other thing that I try very hard to go to sleep around the same time and wake up. I have to get up early for the swimming. That's a given. So I have to go to bed earlier. So that's a big change too, because you want to stay up. You want to, watch something.
Yeah.
Entertainment, right? So let's talk a little bit about your acting career, if that's okay. You did a lot of acting when you were young and then took some time off. And now you're back to acting, and you've been in several movies recently. Can you tell us what it's like going back into acting?
Oh, you really have to reinvent yourself. My agent, the first thing she said to me was just go gray. And that was a difficult change to get used to, because I think the perception again was that it just makes you look older. And people just don't, they don't need to. You don't have to with all the things that they have out there. But I find it very liberating not to have to do something with your hair all the time in terms of color. So that was like the first thing. And just realizing that I'm not an ingenue anymore, to realize that you are the age that you are, and to embrace it. The first commercials were very close to me. I did so many of them that was an easy thing to do for me. It's the films that was new, because in New York I did more Broadway and theater. So film industry, and it's very different in the South. And of course, with COVID, it became even more difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Doing my first film, really good film, was Palms. And it was with Diane Keaton and Rhea Perlman and Jackie Weaver and, a ton of wonderful actresses. It was fun to watch them and see how they worked with the crowds that were there watching. Diane Keaton was just marvelous to work with and very helpful. So I had this 7 other women to watch and learn from. That was a great experience. But, they do the shoot from the front. They do it from the back. They do the big view of it. So you're doing many different takes. And that takes getting used to as well, turning around, being consistent. And they have people there to make sure that you have your handbag on the correct shoulder when you turn it around again.
Sure.
It was 6 weeks of working together. So we became very close. It was a great team to work with. As a matter of fact, I just did something recently where Celia Weston was in Palms, and she was in this film that I just worked on, and it was like old home week. It was so fun to see her again. The film work, I mostly audition. I do a lot of auditions. I'm not necessarily right for them, but I take each audition as a learning experience and learning a new character and taking some risks. And so that's a lot of fun, but that's what you do mostly is audition. And every once in a while I get a job.
And your agent told you to let your hair go gray?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. That's interesting. And you do have beautiful hair. You don't do anything to it?
I don't.
It's lovely.
No.
So I'm going to have to ask our listeners to go and look at your photo because you do have beautiful hair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But it does. I think what she wanted me to be my age.
Yes.
Not to try to be younger. And I like being natural. I really like it. And I know, the wrinkles, they creep in, but they're just part of the journey,
Right. Well, there does seem to be a trend right now for movies with older women in them. There's probably still that gap for middle-aged women, but there's definitely a trend right now, which is great.
It is great. Yes. Because there are a lot of us baby boomers out there.
Yeah.
We might as well enjoy that age at each age you're at.
Yeah. Good. That's good advice.
I got to tell you, this has been the best time of my life. I mean, getting on the Broadway stage was a memory I'll never forget. Working with Diane Keaton in Palms was a wonderful time too. But just being able to be healthy enough to be able to do the things that I'm doing, and I'm healthy because I'm doing those things.
Right.
It's just been a wonderful time of life. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are those, the arthritis, there are the pains, and getting up in the morning and feeling the aches and the joints and overdoing it, but just being able to do it.
That's wonderful. Our listeners are typically women over 50 who are interested in being fit and strong. And some of them are just starting out and some of them are doing exciting things. What advice would you give our listeners?
I would say to start walking and move and stay strong and get strong. So to do weightlifting or resistance work, a slow start 2 to 3 times a week, and to do cardio 6 times a week and have a day of rest. There are many gyms to go to and you can find help there, but you can walk anywhere. I think a lot of people go to the malls and walk around. You can do that just about anywhere, which is why you see so many people doing it, but to be careful with it as always. And I would say just get up and get moving. When you're sitting down watching TV, you can do the rubber band trick. You can work on grip strength. You can, what else do I do when I'm sitting there? I take a hammer actually, and I go back and forth with it. I take a light weight and I open and close my hands, my wrists with it, have it go up and down. There's lots of things that you can do while you're watching TV. Up and down on your toes, the balance on one foot. Balance is so important. There's so many people that fall as they age because of the bone density, for one reason. Just falling causes a break in the hip. I mean, it's something that needs to be done, the balance, for sure. You have to counteract the text neck too. So, that everybody is getting, because the head weighs 10 pounds or 12 pounds. So the more you're going forward, looking at phones, looking at recipes, looking at a book, looking at the newspaper, you're always in this terrible at the computer position. So this rounded shoulder is starting to happen. So you've got to work on the posture continually. Look at yourself sideways. You could be pretty frightened at that. To have somebody take a picture of you just standing comfortably, hopefully that will get you started in saying, okay, I've got to get on a program. Like I said before, commit to it. Sometimes that means setting up the day before, like knowing what you're going to wear or what you're going to do. And then you wake up, you have to do it.
Okay, yes.
So like tomorrow morning, I'm going to go for a walk and know that you're going to do that. Set that time of when you're going to do it. And that mental startup is so important.
So what's next on your schedule?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I have my son coming down with my grandchildren in July. But I do have a national swim meet in July as well. So I'll be putting more effort into that and getting up again for that. I've been doing ninja for a while now. I got to really concentrate on the swimming and really up my game.
Where can our listeners find you online if they want to follow you?
Well, I'd love them to follow me on Instagram, but I have to spell my name because it's spelled differently. It's just Ginny, which is Ginny, MacColl, which is MacColl. So it's spelled very different, but I'd love to get more followers on Instagram just to spread the word about movement and what you can do when you're 71, what you're capable of doing. I'd love to try to motivate more people, not necessarily to do ninja, although that would be great, but to do some kind of program and do those weightlifting and the cardio workouts. Somebody gave me a card one time that says, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. I love that.
So true, right? Well, I'm going to make sure that the links are in our show notes. And you listeners, you really want to see her videos and her Instagram because it's so inspirational, so motivating, so fun. I really enjoyed watching your Instagrams there.
It's also, I have a Facebook page that's, again, just my name. And I also have a YouTube channel that has my old commercials on it.
Okay.
I just found them on the web and I was like amazed. They go back to the 70s. They're still there. 80s.
That's cool.
So that's fun to look at.
Well, we'll put the links in the show notes. That's great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for talking with us today. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I know our listeners are going to feel very motivated after listening to this to focus on their.
Oh, I hope so. Are you?
Well, yes. I clearly have been slacking in my.
How's your balance these days?
Balance is something I struggle with. I know I go to my yoga class occasionally and there's always that section of balance in there. And I'm always like, I am not a stable tree. Let's just say that. Yeah.
You can work on that. You can get it better.
Yeah.
How about lifting weights? Are you lifting weights?
Oh yeah, no, I do a fair amount of lifting weight, but
good.
but I could certainly do more. So
yeah, it's trying to keep a little bit of all of the different components active all the time, right?
It's very hard for people to do.
And staying motivated to do all of it.
Especially when they're in those years where they're raising children and working and taking the kids to sports and all that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a rough time for trying to, I think that's why so many women, they hit their 50s, kids are grown, and all of a sudden it's like, I really need to start taking care of myself.
Yeah. But you can't do stuff with your kids. I think they enjoy it.
That too, for sure.
And the kids need to be doing it too. They need to be working out and doing things.
Yes, they do. Especially adult children need to be doing those things.
Yeah. So let's go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. It was a great time getting to know you, Ginny.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, I'm amazed. Ginny really is inspirational, and I love watching her Instagram videos. Listening to her and hearing how she did it all with baby steps and built up to it, just very inspirational to me.
So that's a good thing to remember. It took her a year to do the pull up, and that was with a lot of work. We tend to be maybe a little too impatient with our goals. Just like what she was saying about people quitting at the gym after 6 months, and it took 7 months for her to start to see any progress.
Yeah. And when she first started at that obstacle course and she was able to do a little something and the trainer said, hey, you'll be able to do all of this someday. You know, she didn't believe it at first, but here she is now competing on television.
I found Ginny to be really motivational. I've been feeling a bit lackluster lately in my workout. So this really psyched me up to maybe do a bit more than I've been doing.
Yeah, it's cool. And Ginny looks fantastic. She's 71 and is going to be on this summer's Ninja Warrior series.
I encourage everyone to check out the show notes for this episode to see photos of Ginny. She really is just a beautiful woman.
Yeah. I also liked what she said about bone strength. She said she's had osteopenia, and with the changes that she made, she was able to reverse it, which I think is so amazing to hear because you don't hear that kind of thing all that often. It's something that as we age, you know, I think it's something that becoming Ellie would want to be doing as well.
Yes, indeed. You do not hear that very often, that people can reverse that. And I'm going to guess that if I went and said that to my doctor, she'd roll her eyes at me. So I love to hear the story that someone was actually able to do it.
Well, bone density is definitely measurable. So that's a very cool thing. Very cool.
I also thought it was interesting how she decided to eat and that she's basically following the Mediterranean diet, getting in lots of protein.
Yeah, that's great.
And vegetables.
Oh, yeah, vegetables. I feel like I'm doing the veggie challenge all the time.
I know. Yes.
It's good. It's good, though.
It is good.
I'd love to hear what our listeners have to say about our conversation with Ginny. Let us know what you think.
If you want to share your thoughts with us, please leave a message at our website, becomingellie.com, or at any of our social media sites where you can find us as Becoming Ellie. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Mastodon, and LinkedIn.
If you go to our website, again, be sure to sign up for our newsletter so that you know what's going on in our world. And consider joining our Becoming Ellie private Facebook group where we inspire and encourage each other.
Yes, we'd love to have you join us. Oh, and if you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend. We would appreciate that.
It's been good talking with you today, Jill. See you on the next episode of Fit Strong Women Over 50.
See you then. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.